Hello, my name is Mordarim and today I'm going to take a look at Weird West. This game is a twin-stick shooter, ARPG mix with CRPG world building in a sim-type world. Now that's a mouthful and there are not many games around that can call themselves this. The studio behind this title is Wolfeye Studios and some of their devs were involved in the development of games like Prey, Dishonored and Deathloop. So I went into this expecting some awesome stuff. Did it deliver? Partially. The overarching story was amazing and kept me guessing, but everything else didn't really blow me away. Now this doesn't mean the game is bad, by any means. It's far from it, but I did expect something more from a seasoned team like this, especially at that price point. The ingredients were chosen well, the cooks were experienced, but the ratio of the recipe were not quite what they should have been. Does this mean we are stuck with a subpar game? No. The roadmap promises to add and fix a lot of things, and we also already saw the addition of new quests, QL stuff, and even a zombie event that makes a more recent playthrough diverge from your first one. Now we cannot really compare Prey 2017's journey from a janky buggy mess to one of the best sim RPGs ever made, but given parts of the Arcane team are now working on Weird West, we can draw parallels and predict a hopefully great game in around 1 year's time. So what did we get? A janky Wild West game with dark magic and a huge potential for growth. Let's start with what this game is all about. We are seemingly in some kind of fraternity, getting stamped in a damn cellar surrounded by a bunch of chats. We have no idea what's going on and there is no voice acting guiding us through this scene. Everything is a bit ominous and shrouded in mystery. Next we wake up in somebody else's body. Our homestead is getting robbed, our husband abducted and our child and dog get killed. Out for blood, we dig up our old gear and go blasting. The premise is simple, we seek vengeance and we want to rescue our partner. After we finish our journey, it ends in a summary screen and we move to the next one. Back in the cellar, surrounded by the same figures and 5 portraits. The mark appears on another one and we wake up as a pigman. No memory, no recollection of what happened, just another harsh reality. Okay, so our real life escapism doesn't work. This happens 3 more times until we solve the mystery. Who are we? Why are we getting stamped? Who is surrounding us? Why are we possessing those 5? Are we even possessing them? The game throws a lot of questions at us right from the get-go and answers them much later in the story. But I will talk about the story at the end. Let's first dive into visuals and environment. As you have probably noticed by now, the game doesn't look bad. A bit rugged here and there, but the cel-shaded approach to everything gives it a rugged appearance, which is perfect for a Western style game. The mines, towns, grassland all look great and a bit off. You always have that uneasy feeling, like something is not right, and the art style helps immensely with this. This world is shrouded in dark magic. Nothing is right, and I just cannot stress this enough. Everything felt hostile, like I wasn't safe anywhere. It was like shadows creeping around the corner, but every time you turn around there is nothing there. The whole game is like this, but there is something around the corner. It's dirty, it's corrupted, it's hostile. Abandoned towns with buildings barricaded like someone was fleeing. Graves littered throughout the maps, and caves filled with ominous paintings on every wall. Who are these beings? Why is there a cupboard in this pentagram? Why are there blood trails everywhere? Not everything is answered, but this also perfectly conveys the brutality of this world. There is seemingly no safe haven, no matter where you are. It's an incredibly immersive experience, despite the top-down view. Well, there is one exception to this. Some enemies, like the Siren, like to portray their lust for the fine art by piling corpses on top of each other and decorating them with a wide array of accessories. But this doesn't happen naturally. One day you clear a mine of bandits, leaving behind 10 meatbags, and come back 3 days later to the same mine, just to be greeted with 4 sirens and around 1000 bodies decorating the whole damn thing, chairs stuck in them, closets to store stuff, a king-sized bed on top of a pile of corpses. It felt comically evil and took me straight out of the experience. I haven't even encountered a fraction of the population to do this. However, some of the stuff was absolutely great. Encountering raves felt awesome. The visuals for their supernatural layers were not overdone at all and just highlighted how powerful and dangerous those beings are. Battling them in this environment while they summoned zombies felt really special. This mansion, for example, was one of my favorite levels. Figuring out how to get in, navigate it and get to the chest you see in a specific room felt great. Now this brings me to level design. more specifically map design. Maps nearly always offer you multiple ways to get to your desired destination. Using the environment to reveal passages, destroy walls with dynamite, climb on top of roofs and buildings with the help of furniture or barrels offers a lot of depth and fun. Interacting with everything in search of solutions is one of the biggest strengths of this game. But there is a perk that destroys a lot of that interactivity between you and the environment: High Jumper. This passive bonus increases your jump height, which makes stacking furniture, climbing on barrels, or just using something as a platform unnecessary and took away a lot of the fun of playing around with stuff. For anyone wanting to play this game, I would advise to just stay away from it. A great example of this is this water tower. I searched around the perimeter for something to use as a platform, but only found a scent of Zag. But that's enough, so I used it to gain the necessary height to jump on top of the tower and sneak into the bank undetected. A great memorable experience, but I could have also used High Jumper to easily reach it without it. I'm all for enhancing my gameplay through boosts in power, health and money, but having a passive bonus that takes away from the core mechanics of the game felt like downgrading my character. I didn't unlock something new, I just made something completely obsolete. A better solution would have been a perk that lets you carry heavier stuff the more you invest into it, and just limit what you can lift without it. Now there's something else that took me right out of it. The map is gigantic, but the asset pool is not. Walking into a town to be greeted by the exact same buildings and layouts over and over again can be bad, but this is explained by having the same blueprints for everything. It's the Wild West, there probably were not that many architects around, especially with the body turnover rate. But walking into temples, mines, caves, swamps and camps, seeing the exact same stuff you have seen minutes prior to this just sucked. I basically felt like I've seen everything after just 3 hours of playtime, and this is disastrous for a sim type game. Especially one like this, where you are encouraged to play through it multiple times. The devs are working on increasing the variety of events, map layouts, quests and enemies, but this will take time and multiple patches to fix. If you are watching this in the future, keep in mind they might have fixed it already. There are updates scheduled for May and June to address this thing. So how does this game sound?
Abducted, cursed. Your new body will horrify all comers. You want to find out who you once were, you might have to uncover some old wounds and risk opening new ones.
It sounds exactly what you would expect from a supernatural Wild West shooter. Creepy, eerie and corrupted. Some of the music could have fit right into a horror game. It's intense and always gave me that feeling of not wanting to be there. A great example of this are the trapper camps. I just couldn't stay here for long. Given that this is not supposed to be a horror game, it's probably not a positive, but ultimately it fit the rugged art style mixed with the brutal narrative and dark magic. Now, most of the music is just for the background, be it battle music or some creepy tunes in a cave, but there are also pieces that really took me by surprise.
So this is it.
Remember, the game has no voice acting except the narrator.
You're the marked wolf from the prophecy. One who's supposed to lead a werewolf army to Blood Moon Temple, to salvation.
Hearing people talk and sing is something very special in this game and highlights the importance of specific sections. It makes you pay attention. A great design choice and easily the best part about the sound design in Weird West. but the game also suffers from this. The lack of voice acting, especially with how much dialogue there is in the game, made the whole experience feel unfinished. Voices tied to specific characters like the Heathen would have come a long way in creating more memorable moments. It's like eating nuggets without the sauce. Sure, it's great, but a nice curry dip would have made it much better. Some sections also feel off without anyone speaking. I'm not sure if this is by design or due to budget constraints, but I would guess it's the latter. What about gun sounds and explosions? Well, let's have a tasting. I would say it's pretty decent. Meaty, impactful, but not on par with Ruiner or The Ascent. The caveman in me carves more. With combat being so short and explosive, there is no time to savor much, if anything at all. This is in part because of the small map sizes, but also because of the overall high damage you deal to enemies. The fights just blow over really fast. Let's dive into gameplay next. Before you start your journey, you can choose between multiple difficulties. I found hard to be the sweet spot, offering me enough challenge to not bore me to death. Very hard jams up the numbers without any changing gameplay. Sure, encounters are more challenging, but I didn't feel like they are more rewarding or fun. Enemies go from rushing you to rushing you even harder. It didn't feel great. Story mode is also an option if you want to experience the tale without any bullshit, though I would recommend going with normal to at least have some challenge before you. Now you control one character, have character specific abilities, multiple weapons with special abilities, can sneak, take cover, dodge roll and activate bullet time. You even have multiple throwables you can use to dismantle your foes. Companions are also a thing, but I will talk about them later. All the ingredients for great combat with a lot of depth are here. But my first thought when diving into battle was, damn, this feels janky. And I immediately noticed why. You cannot use your character abilities or rotate your camera while aiming. You also use bullet time when dodging while aiming. The controls just didn't feel right. This created unnecessary friction and made obliterating foes less fun. Also, having so many different abilities is great, but explosive short combat sections made everything feel not worth using. I also didn't have time to think, choose and use. Enemies rush you. You need to react fast and decide immediately. There is no time for choosing which tool to use. And the fixed camera angle also means encounters could not be handcrafted or built with certain layouts in mind. Buildings, objects and structures hide foes behind them and you cannot really aim at them. Trying to throw any of the consumables feels especially bad, which made me just not use them. I also stopped using my regular dodge roll because I would have needed to stop aiming. Your abilities are also tied to the same resource as your bullet time, but the latter is much better in most scenarios, which limits my ability usage. All ingredients are available to create great combat, but the recipe was just not the right one. I just didn't want to interact with anything because of all the friction. It's not like I didn't want to throw dynamite, I just couldn't be arsed in combat. The gameplay outside of encounters is much better and this saddens me. The sound design, interactable environment and variety of tools are all great and just need a revamp. Speaking of out of combat experience, it's one of the strongest points of this game. Having the ability to sneak around, knock out enemies with silent shots or just with your bare hands really is a lot of fun. Problems are almost always designed with multiple solutions in mind. Sure, you can brute force your way in, but you can also sneak around the back door, climb on top of buildings and drop down onto a balcony. This is true for almost everything in this game. Even bounties give you the option to either kill the bandit leader or handcuff him after you knock him out for increased rewards. This can lead to them breaking out of prison and hunt you down in a vendetta, but this also makes it all the more fun. Well, I said almost everything gives you the multiple solutions. There are exceptions to this. Weirdly, side quests are one of them. Almost all of them were me just fetching some stuff in an abandoned town, mine or cave. Most of the variety came from random events while traveling. The dialogue was also not that enticing or particularly fun. There are exceptions to this, like a bunch of kids wanting me to investigate strange happenings in their hometown and some quests resulting in unexpected outcomes. but I didn't really care for the 10th fetch quest. All the encounters with the heathen were fun and unique, some were riddles, some choices who to punish, and a slapping contest which required me to search for a solution and come back later with a different character. Why couldn't they design more of this type of quests? The sim type world could shine here, and lays the groundwork for an incredible experience with a bit more polish and variety. But this same sim type world makes it possible to break the game. You can steal stuff, basically everything. This includes wares of NPCs, their shop keys, and all of their savings. This gives you access to infinite money, all the weapons, armor, tools and consumables you will ever need. Why? Because you can just break in, steal all their stuff, sell it to the same NPC just moments later, and they will never suspect a thing. They never change the lock, they never hire guard, they never suspect you, they never run out of money to restock, they never question you selling them all their stuff you just stole. This is a massive oversight and will probably and hopefully be fixed with one of the coming patches. Now I need to talk a bit about progression, because wanting to break the game is tied to this. It's kind of weird and bland. All the gear is split into 5 tiers. You can equip a pistol, rifle, shotgun, bow and melee weapon. Your armor comes in the form of a vest, and you also have access to 2 amulet slots. Those are basically trinkets with effects. You can upgrade your weapons and armor. However, for some reason they do not allow you to upgrade your weapon to tier 5. But your armor is fair game. Why? I don't know. You can just buy a tier 5 weapon right from the get-go, so power is not a problem. Why is crafting? It's much harder to acquire the upgrade materials for arms anyway. This just doesn't make any sense. Amulets are another topic of confusion. There is no upgrade or crafting system for them. You are forced to pray to RNGs for the right drop in chests. And some of the later ones offer you some really great perks, like reloading after a kill or healing off of a stealth kill. Sadly, that's about it. The pool is extremely limited. There is just not much to choose from in terms of variety. The same is true for weapons and armor. There is no unique or named items, no powerful hidden treasures, no elemental weaponry. It kind of defeated the purpose of exploring. You have to buy or steal tier 5 weapons, because you cannot craft them. There is only a small chance to find tier 5 guns in higher tier dungeons much late in the story, and vests can be easily crafted to tier 5 in just 30 minutes of playtime. Just buy and steal all the leather and that's about it. Progression desperately needs a rework, and the devs are hopefully working on it with a patch planned to address this in the near future. Now I still haven't talked about abilities and perks yet. Both of them are great in their own way, with perks offering you passive boni that carry over to the next character, and abilities being tied to your current character. Perks can be unlocked through spending cards on them, and abilities require nymph relics. Both of those can be found in a chest, looted from corpses or acquired as a reward for completing a quest. Unlocking perks always felt good, with the exception of High Jumper, but I already talked about this one in detail. Looking into pockets of bandits to find a pistol, some rounds and a snack didn't really move me, but seeing a card? That's the real shit. This is the reason why I wanted to keep exploring. Now speaking of looting, you're showered in it. No matter what you open, there is almost always something in it that can be sold as junk to vendors. Be it nails, bottles, scraps, there is just too much in fact. Your inventory is limited. Now the game gives you multiple options to create more space to loot, but it's also cumbersome to use. A bank can be found in towns to store your stuff. Your horse is at the edge of the map, and there is also an option of recruiting 2 companions that aid you in battle, but those need to be talked to transfer items into their inventory. For some odd reason there is no companion tab in the UI for equipment and loot, so you need to manage everything through a dialogue window, even equipping items. You can basically look up any CRPG to get an idea of how it's done properly. Pillars of Eternity has a great one for example. It even has a pocket belt for consumables for each character. Now let's talk about companions. Those are mostly just standard NPCs, but you can also recruit your previous characters. Those retain all their abilities and use them in combat, which makes them much better than anything else you can get to follow you. It's a nice touch and very flavorful. Other than that, they are just bullet sponges and distraction for enemies so they do not swarm you. Because oh boy, enemies are aggressive and relentless. They will rush you no matter what. I personally was hoping for more nuanced gameplay and cover-based maneuvers, but it just evolves into me keeping them at medium range and ambushing them whenever I can. There are 2 more mechanics I want to talk about: reputation and camping. Reputation just seems like a way to prevent us from going murder hobo. Sure, you get the discount or a higher price tag depending on your reputation, but that's about it. It's a boring system and could have been much more with different factions. Why cannot I befriend the nearest? Why do werewolves hate me all the time? There is just not enough CRPG in this mix. It's one of the ingredients that I saw not enough use of, and camping is just there. I only used it to hunt a bunch of bison. I know it's supposed to be for cooking, but carrying food instead of just more bandages didn't make any sense to me. With all that out of the way, let's get into story. If you do not want any spoilers, skip to this part. All was a sham. You are an immortal centuries-old human being out of a group of 21 individuals. You all found a magic book containing 9 wishes, and 7 of them were already used. You all wished for the same, immortality, but the book also took something else from you: emotions. Your humanity. The book also prevented you from negating a wish. All lived their lives and passed them until they couldn't take it anymore. Everyone gathered and discussed what to do to end this misery. 19 agreed to erase the world, and 2 wanted to try something else. The heathen and you. In search for a solution, you found the wanderers and used their magic to create a spell that would let you become a passenger in the body of a human being. One of the 21 had the ability to see the future and found 5 individuals with tragic fates, so you could experience the worst of humanity. Why? Because in theory, experiencing the most tragic fates would make your emotions come back, and with it, your mortality. After the last journey's end, you are questioned by the others. You have killed, you have stolen, you have helped, you have gained, and you have lost. What did you feel? Depending on your answer, you will get your humanity back. This is proven by drawing blood with the blade you once used to confirm your immortality. Succeeding reverts the curse, and the 21 return to dust. Well, they devour you and the fading wanderer magic to regain their mortality. Failing erases the world and the 21 with it. Only your answers at the very end change the outcome. All your decisions throughout the 5 journeys change the weird west. You are presented with an epilogue while the credits play to give you closure. A unique story with a satisfying conclusion is presented to you. I personally really liked the ending. The game portrays the need for death and closure. The story dealt with greed, guilt, loss and regret, and I was engaged throughout the whole thing, questioning my decisions. If you think about it, you can decide if you possess the body or experience it as a passenger. It's a tough choice, and it's yours. What would have the original owner done? Weird West presents us with a fantastic world and a unique take on the Wild West and dark magic. There are just not many games offering you this with this type of experience. Though the game needs a bit more polish in some areas and probably reworks in some of the more broken and bland ones. Given the roadmap and scheduled patches, I'm certain we will get a great game eventually, but I question their decision to release it right now. A delay to iron out bugs, add some desperately needed variety and rework the progression system would have benefited the game greatly. Especially the reputation system and combat needed some love to make it truly shine. I also feel like there is just not enough of everything to really satisfy my hunger. For those who bought the game already, I'm sure you will be happy in around 1 year's time. But for all others, I can safely recommend Weird West on the Game Pass. So I'm not entirely sure what I will cover next. Most likely a preview for Trek to Yomi, but other than that, I'm still looking for recommendations. So if you want to see something covered, tell me down below. Anyway, that's all I have for you for now. See you next time and bye!